So, I mean, I would still move forward with this, but I would have taken that into account with negotiations and some other things just because the building had been let go for such a long period of time.
My thing would have probably been asking about heat and air,
Mm.
like in the front portion, like in the wintertime. And I love the heat. Like a lot of people's complaining about the 100-degree weather. I love it. That's my type of heat. The cold weather, I hate. I anything below 70, I hate it. So like there's sometimes in the wintertime that it's the front is just freezing and I'm shooting and my clients feel good, but I have this coat on because it's cold to me. So and you don't want to turn up the heat at times, but because then they get uncomfortable. So that would be the big thing for me.
I agree. I 100% agree. I did not think about that at all. And when I signed my lease, didn't realize we all share one AC unit,
Mm.
the whole building. Now, recently they have cut up everybody's, but for the first 2 years I was there, year and a half I was there, it was all one shared. I do newborns. I need that. I need heat going on in it. So me and Julia Place next door, we'd often fight or that thermostat because they would want it like dropped real low. And I'm like, hey, I've got an infant in the studio space today. So I didn't think about that at all. It didn't even register in my brain. So I completely agree.
That's a huge point. And I'm on the opposite side of the coin here. So it's like my furnace kicks, like you could literally cook in this place in the winter. But the flip side of that is I don't have any AC in the building. So like I've lived out here. I've always lived in historic buildings without AC. And because it's cinder block construction, I'm like, oh, it's not going to be that bad because we really don't have tons of like consecutive 100-degree days here in Denver. It undulates a lot. But recently, for instance, we've had like 300 or 400-degree days and the building will heat up, even though my unit's on the base floor and even though it has 15-foot ceilings for the heat to rise. Later in the day, even with blackout curtains, it gets gnarly in here. And I mean, I have like the Annie Leibovitz style fans that'll blow the eyelashes off your face. But that only works so much when it's, deafening and you can't hear what you're talking to with the person. So when it's hot like this, it really nullifies my ability to work in the afternoon or evening. Luckily, I don't rely on things like renters or a cohabitated studio. But if I did, that would be a really big consideration. So yeah, that's it seems like simple, but that's a huge point. The AC and the heat. It's a really big deal.
We have a question in the chat. Have we talked about numbers yet? How much studio runs y'all to start? I think we kind of sort of touched it. My studio is $4,600 a month. It's all inclusive. Johnny, how much do you pay for yours?
I feel like I don't want to say because someone's going to come and try and do a hostile takeover of my space. Like I'm going to have to put turrets up on the corners and put guards out front. So I have roughly 3,000 square feet of usable space. I also have a garage that's attached in the back that I can use unlimited for storage relative to the other occupants of the building. I only pay $1,800 a month for my space. Wow. And that includes literally everything. And if any of you know what
you, Johnny.
Exactly. This is it. Game over. All right. I just gave it away. But for market rate here, Denver is expensive. Denver is basically coastal expensive for the real estate market. So if I was anywhere else, not even just like being downtown, but if I was in an allied building like this here in this area, I should probably be paying $4K for what I'm paying here. So once again, this just had to do with a right time, right thing, good karma bit. I had a friend who was in the space who was leaving. He was trying to break the lease. I was like, let me get in there. I talked to the woman here. Her name is Penny Lane of all names. And she's just this sweet woman in her 70s. And she's just like, I love you, darling. We're going to make this work. So once again, definitely not the best business person here, but I have some really good luck. So I just happened to walk in at the right time as someone else wanted to walk out. So yeah, but please.
It is just luck.
Yeah.
Put that in perspective. That's $7.20 a square foot.
I know.
That's insane.
And once I don't think. Yeah, I don't know, everyone. So maybe you can rub the bald head, like you rub the bald head, Johnny Buddha, get some good luck. But that's
feeling you, Johnny. That's why you got that. She was feeling you, Johnny.
Exactly. She was just scared of me. I think that was probably it. I said she loved me. She's like, this guy looks like he's in the mafia or something. I better give him the space. But the one thing that I'll say about that too is it is the needle in the haystack, but like there are really great opportunities in all markets. So like that idea where Kiati was talking about the long negotiation, I think it's also giving yourself the chance to search for the right thing. I mean, if you're looking to pay $500 for a loft studio in Soho, that's probably not going to happen. But at the same time, you don't have to look at things and say like, this is de facto how it's going to be. There are a lot of individual landlords There are a lot of grants out there. There are a lot of subdivided buildings that have things like nonprofits in them or churches or things like that. So getting outside of the box, you can really find some really cool spaces and potentially save yourself a lot of money in the long term.
Yeah, I
me-
mean, sorry, Connie, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say for me, because I'm in a mall, they have it kind of at market rate based off of the activity in the mall. So my space having 3,000 square foot of studio space, the 500, then I added an extra 800 square foot. Total, I paid $3,000. That's actually super cheap here. Because on the other side of town in Short Pump, which is a mall too, I would probably be paying $8,000. That's how much someone left with way less square footage of space. I think she had maybe 1,200. She was paying $4,000 for 1,200 square feet.
Wow.
In the mall. And this is a very active and busy mall, but she didn't stay there no more than a year. And then she was out because she
I
thought
have
she
1,800 square feet. I paid 46. So,
Yep,
yeah.
she was going 4,000. So I don't complain a whole lot. I just try to make sure that I make the revenue to be able to offset that cost and book enough shoots to make sure I always pay that rent and the insurance. But what I wanted to also go back and backtrack, you were asking about some things we wish we would have known before we got a studio. One of the things I thought I wish I would, and I posted a before and an after photo of I think the video from my Facebook. When I walked in, the first thing I noticed is, oh, there's open ceilings and there's beautiful white floor. I was sold. Yeah, that floor is the hardest floor to clean. It picks up everything. It is the worst thing I hate to do is to do that floor. And so that was a lot of work. And the open ceilings means that there's open AC units that I am constantly hearing that AC unit all day long till it becomes numbing that everybody's used to it. But to record, you have to have a certain kind of mic to kind of drown out the sound. So that was one of my biggest issues. And the third thing, I like the fact that I was really close to the loading zone. Where the loading zone is the garbage can. What comes out the garbage can? Bugs. So I had to make sure I am constantly spraying to keep bugs from getting into my studio.
And Connie, you're at $8.50 a square foot all in.
I know.
Yeah.
We're competing
That's
now.
crazy.
Connie versus Johnny. Bum, bum, bum.
I know.
So mine's is I pay 1,700 a month. It's 1,600 square foot. That's Studio 2. Studio 1 is 750 square foot, and I pay 700 for that one.
Ooh,
That's
nice.
so good.
Looks like I'm the one paying the most.
Yeah, you are.
I mean, I'm dead set right in the middle of San Antonio, Texas. I'm
Yeah.
about a half a mile from the Alamo. So, yeah, right in the heart of San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, I have 2,700 square feet for my first studio. I pay 3,200 for that, and I have about the same square footage my second studio, and I paid 3,500 for that.
It's expensive. It can be expensive, but it depends on where you go in the area. And someone was asking, where do you find private landlords? What's that page that you find things that people just post stuff in? I can't remember what it's called now. And Facebook Marketplace. It's another page. I cannot remember the name of that page.
Craigslist?
Craigslist.
Dangerous friends.
Craigslist. But you better go check it out. Craigslist.
Katrina
Because I
asked-
found the house that I was renting out of my studio off of Craigslist. And the house that I'm renting out is 3,000 square foot, but it also has a large spaces. So that's how I was able to use that house to do my studio. But Marketplace also has some private landlords.
Well, I think part of this too, it's, when we're talking about like someone goes, how do you get clients? And obviously we all have different methods of getting clients. Like I'm a very in-person person for all things. So I think even with that, you're like, all right, well, if I want to find private landlords, like if you're looking for someone who abides by artists, like if your area has art walks, if it has art events, if it has community events, go and talk about with passion what it is you're doing. Because someone happens to overhear it, they're on their third martini and you're like, I want to do right by the community. And they're like, well, it just so happens that I have a studio in the northern part of the city. And then things happen. So I think just connecting with other people and like speak your dreams, speak your vision out loud, and people who are meant to be in your life will actually take note of that from like more of a metaphysical perspective. But it's a big deal. Like that's 99% of the things I've fallen into have been because I hit it off with someone in a face-to-face type of scenario. And then it either happened then or came back around at another time.
And
And
Johnny,
ask
that's one of our big things within our city. It's like 5 to 6 families that kind of own majority of the things. And literally we just kept advocating to them, and they're just really supportive of the artist community here.
Huge. I love that.
And I was saying, ask Facebook. You would be surprised what you can find with
Oh,
that
100%.
ask Facebook hashtag.
Mhm. Yeah.
Have any
Katrina
photographers
asked
rented
if
the studio?
anybody had experience with window tint where you see out but people can't see in. Katrina, we don't do window tint, but our front studio space that faces the parking lot has a large garage door actually, which was one of the things that we absolutely loved about it. And then a very big window, like ceiling to floor window. We do have a thrift store directly next door to us, and there people like to hang there. It's kind of a younger crowd, so we have issues of them hanging outside the garage door. So we didn't tint it, but we did get like the iridescent window cling so that people can't see in. It's actually really cool because when the sun sets over there, it shades a rainbow onto the cement floor in the studio. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But that was kind of our solution to, kind of creating that private area that people couldn't see in.
Well, the one thing that I did negotiate for in my space was like they were old windows in the space that were just hemorrhaging, heat and cool depending on the time of year. So there were new windows that were put in, and I have giant picture frame style windows in the front of my studio. They're massive. So the windows that we went with, it's hard to describe, but it's kind of like if you've ever tried to look through a window that almost looks warbled, like you can't quite see through it. So the nature of the multi-pane window means that you can't directly see in. So I have shades that can be drawn, but unless you're like on the window, like suction cup to the window, even if I'm 5 feet inside the window, you can't see anything, and I'm on the ground level. But I'm also a freestanding building. I don't have a thrift store. I don't have anything going on around me. So the worst thing is, someone who's just a straggler, and they're like, "Where am I?" And I'm like, "I don't know where I'm at," and then just shoo them away. That type of thing.
The big thing with tint, and you kind of have to find out what is commercially acceptable with the building that you're in, is if you like, a lot of people will use mirror tint. But the problem with mirror tint is you can see out, but you can't see in unless you turn on the lights.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you turn on the lights, they can see everything in.
Wow.
So
it's the old 2A mirror thing when you're secretly being watched.
yeah.
Right.
So yeah, and that's exactly it. Like even like when they go for police lineups, right? They keep the room dark, and then they'll like comedies. Someone walks in and opens light, and it's like, oh, there you go.
There goes the autonomy.
That guy.
Bill.
So
Mall, you can't tint in the mall. You just can't. That's in
yeah. Katrina, for you, like I would highly invest in like blackout curtains or like shades. You can get roll down shades that are perforated, so that way light comes in, you can see out. So the sunshades are kind of like that, and you don't have to deal with issues of as soon as you turn on the light, then you can see through it. And then those are actually probably a little bit more forgiving for landlords. So because those are easily removed, versus trying to remove window tint could be a big pain in the ass, and that's why landlords don't like them, because if you move out, then it's on them to remove the tint.
But just sheer curtains are good too. Even if you have to multi-layer the sheer curtains, it gives your space a really nice aesthetic and gives you that white balance too. So that's also an option too.
Yeah.
Someone asked about did anyone think about setting up storage unit when you first opened? So I did, and I thought I had all the storage in the world. I had that 500 square feet until you start wanting to change things around and you don't have anywhere for things to go. And so the mall had a space that they would just had junk in, and I happened to inquire about mall a space, and they offered that space to me and cleared it out. And it's got racks upon racks upon racks, big racks, and a desk with lots of drawers. So I'm able to really spread out and kind of label all my stuff so I know where everything is by section. I even got some of my personal stuff, all my campus stuff in there. So I use it for everything. I told other people you can come bring your stuff and put it in my storage. So it's that big.
We built out a back storage space in our studio.
Kelly, your sound went out.
The back?
Yep.
Yep.
So we built out a storage space behind our main wall. And because we rent out to individual photographers and we have members, we built in locker space for them to be able to lock up equipment or do whatever they want.
Nope. Went out again. Batteries.
Just write it down and put it up to the screen.
Smoke signals.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. Good thing I had the other one out. So having, as a newborn photographer, having everything immediately accessible to me was really important. So probably the last, 8 to 10 feet, would you say, Kiati? The backside of our Studio One is all built out storage space. Our dressing room's back there. We store extra furniture. We hang stools on the walls, all sorts of stuff. And that's kind of how we store things.
So there was a follow-up, and they said that I think they were referring to like a storage facility to actually shoot out of a storage unit. Like, has anyone tried that? And I mean, I think we're running into the same issue that we talked about with most commercial apartment complexes, where when you sign up for one of those storage units, generally speaking, running any type of business out of there is not going to be solid. Obviously you can find just, the one-offs and things like that, but then, you're considering safety. If you're keeping your gear there, a lot of those places really aren't all that safe. How are you maintaining all of that? And even things like climate control and just cleanliness, hygiene, all of those come to mind for a storage unit. But I'm sure there's people who have done it and done cool
Aside from
stuff.
the fact that they're like, it's bringing a client to a storage facility.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's what I'm gonna say.
They gonna put them in a box.
You have to have some good charisma. Like,
Yeah,
that's it. You have to have solid charisma.
Hey, meet me in
Listen.
the
We're going to
storage
do your
unit.
Vogue style portraits at the local use storage. Don't sweat it once you get inside. Mwah. It's like Venice. Leave it be.
Johnny, you could sell water to the ocean.
I say,
I swear,
I tell my accountant that until it comes to actually asking for money for art. And then it's another thing entirely, which is why when they're like, be on this panel, I'm like, don't make me talk about money. I'm working on that with my therapist right now and my life coach. But it is a funny thing though, but that it's a true bit. Like I think, when I was in shared studio spaces and stuff before, and I literally was in places that were like apartment complexes, but had some art units in them, I was like, man, how is this really going to be? But so often it's about how you present it. It's kind of a side note to what we're actually talking about. Like, how do you speak about your space? If you're excited, if you're enjoying it, if you're selling it, like it's perspective bias for the person who walks in. If you were coming to my studio, even though it's a beautiful studio, I honestly think it's the best studio in Colorado, or at least the most unique, but I'm like, yeah, my studio's all right. And, I'm working on it and it's a work in progress like me. Ha, 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 ha. You're going to come in and you're going to see it and you're going to be like, damn, this place is kind of a bummer. If I'm like, I'm so excited for you to see this space. I poured my heart and soul into this. It's amazing. The precedent you set energetically when they walk in and how they're going to feel that. And that doesn't just apply to our studio space. It applies to everything else, but it's a really, really big deal. It's not what we say, but how we say it more than anything else. But, side note.
so we've dived quite a bit into studios and things of that sort. One thing I kind of want to touch on and make sure we don't necessarily skip is, and especially because I'm extremely interested in, is the mobile studio space.
Yeah, I'm super interested in that too.
So Jermaine, I'm gonna give you the floor, and like I want to hear all about like how you built it, what it cost to build, like how did that come to be? Like I've seen it for sports photography and for like volume sports photography, but like I'm gonna give you the floor. Let's go ahead.
So I had the idea about 4 years ago, and I was doing a lot of research to make sure that it was doable, and then two, to make sure the market was not saturated with it in this area. And then once I seen it, then I started thinking about, all right, the build up. First, I was just looking for one that I was just going to buy that was tall enough, wide enough, and would work. But then I was finding them. And I said, man, for all this money, I think it's better just to go and get it built from the ground up. I tried to get it in Maryland, but the prices just was through the roof. So I said, you know what, let me start looking down south because I'm sure I can find it. I started doing my research and found a company in one of the deep country somewhere in Georgia. And actually I did everything was built out and done via the phone. I never went there to tell them anything. I kind of drawed out what I wanted, told them what I wanted, the height requirements that was needed, the type of flooring I wanted, the type of walls, because I told them I'm in Maryland, so we had to think about, I don't need this to be something I can only use in the summer or something I can only use in the winter, but something I can use all around. So I actually have insulated walls, just like if you put in a house. I have heat, I have air conditioner, I have Wi-Fi in there. I have Westcott lighting in there. I have canvas backdrops in there because it can kind of work through anything. And the good thing about it, I like it, is I have it where I can put the poles up and the impact where it can hold it. But also, if I want to take that down and flip the whole thing around, depending on the type of event. And also I had the walls made where I know, like, I was thinking like this is a new version of a upscale version of a photo booth 360. This is the next level of it. So when I did my soft opening, what I did was I had everybody write on a wall or leave a little memo. And people was like, you can't write on this wall. I said, no, they actually can. So they're really whiteboards, the walls. So you can literally write. So I was like, this is a great idea because, you know, if you come into a wedding, and especially as an outdoor wedding, that's what I really try to focus on, outdoor wedding venues, because I can just pull the trailer there. I roll out the red carpet. I got custom steps made. And then we can have it decorated to match the theme of whatever your wedding theme is. But as the person is leaving, they can actually write a note on the wall strictly for the couple. Then I'll record a video and send it to them. But I also use Spot My Photo. So the concept is you come in, scan a QR code, upload your selfie, you sit down, take your photo. Before you walk out, you're getting your photos. So my ideal market is, again, I do a lot of corporate headshots, and I just got tired of showing up to people, offices, the ceilings were too low, or you just didn't know the situation. Also, I shoot a lot of families, and one thing I heard a lot was, I have an older grandmother that we can't get her out the house. It's too much to do this. It's too much to do that. I said, man, so I can actually pull up to people's house, and people love that concept. I remember the first client house I pulled up to, I swear everybody in her community seen it, and they all started. Next thing you just see people, because I got a big QR code on the outside. Everybody riding past just taking QR code. And then the requests just started coming in. I said, okay, so I think this is good. But I think one of the things is that you have to realize, when you're introducing something that's totally different, nobody has never done it, you got to do some serious market, because, you know, saying it is like one thing, but for people actually seeing it is what I learned, that's when people really buy into it. So I started doing pop-ups where I would just do free headshots, and I would go to different communities where I know people spend money, and I would say, hey, can I come to this community, sit here and just do free headshots? And people would come and say, oh my God, like, I seen the little thing on your YouTube, and I seen this, but to actually come here, like the experience, like coming in, you know, we got snacks, we got wine, we got a little refrigerator. So it's just like, we got the nice music playing, depending on what type of event it is. So it's like people, again, it's an experience. Because I remember I went to one of my friends, because again, this thing is not just about money, but it's also, for me, everything has to have some type of thing I can do, give back. So for Christmas holiday, we went into a low income neighborhood, and they was giving away food, produce, and all that. And I said, I know most people probably don't even know what a headshot is, or never had a headshot. So I said, look, I told my friend, let me come pull up, let me get free headshots. I said, they was like, I don't think that's gonna work. But that was one of our biggest turnouts. We had 50 people come out for headshots, and it was crazy to listen to the conversations. Some people came in, didn't want to leave. They said, man, this trail is nicer than where I live at.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, you know, but again, this is a low income neighborhood where, again, if people don't come and get this free food, they might not eat this week.
Mm.
And then I also run a nonprofit. So I was like, oh, this is going to be a 2-in-1 thing, because now I could pull up and pull this back door down, take the backdrop down. We got heat and air, and we could serve food out of here. So I partnered with Toys for Tots for Christmas, and they gave me over 1,000 toys. I pulled up to that same low income neighborhood, and gave out toys to 600 or 700 families because we had so many toys, and I'm talking about thousands of just give, and it was all brand new stuff. So it's like, this is not just a business, but it's also, I used it where we can actually be a blessing in the community. And again, people will see it, they're like, man. And then literally I got on the other side of town and people calling me, or people say, hey, you just around the corner giving out free toys, you got any more toys? I said, unfortunately we gave them all away. But it's about letting people see things in a different light and giving people experiences that they will never experience unless you actually give it to them.
That is
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Jermaine, I do a community event every year too called Pay What You Can Minis. And we, the money gets donated to wherever the community votes on throughout the year. But having those moments and giving back to the community is really, really kind-hearted and special in so many ways. I'm sure there's beyond words what people could say about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. I think that's, the things that we do, because, we're all artists, right? And like the thing that we do for why we do it, right? And it's because we love the way we make people feel.
Yep.
We love how to, finding that light, finding that, that moment. Like the best thing, no matter who says it, right? I've had, my clients have had models that is like, I can't believe that's me.
Mhm.
And it's like, being able to capture them the way we see them, because we look at ourselves and we don't always see what everyone else sees
Yeah.
because we see it every day. We're used to it. We are our worst critic, right? And being able to capture those images and show them behind the back of the camera, right? Connie, as a boudoir photographer, the best thing is this is 100% you. I just took this photo. There's no editing involved. This is 100% you, and look how amazing you look. And that glow, that immediate feeling of wow, and that's my why. I'm sure that's your why as well, and how do we continue to do this with the art that we do, right? So, around here we have a local tailor who started a nonprofit called Sharp Dressed Men. So, people donate suits, but on Wednesdays they have suit up days for people that are just trying to get back on their feet, that are, newly out of prison, or still like trying to get jobs. So they would come to Sharp Dressed Man, they would get suited up, haircuts, the whole nine, and then you would set up a photo booth to do a LinkedIn headshot, and that's all free, and it's like being able to do that with what we can offer to the community is just
Well, and that was one of my reasons why. And I know Angela and I talked about this yesterday at the cookout. Is Angela and I are both social workers, and one of my reasons for wanting a space in general was to be able to have a space to do events and do things that brought in the community. One of the things that I get surprisingly a lot of lashback for is I don't enjoy working with the upper class family. It's just not my cup of tea. It's not my ideal client. I like working with the middle to lower class for so many reasons. I like the environment better. I like giving back to the community that I once needed at a younger age. And I think having that opportunity and being blessed enough to have a studio space and be able to have a place where people can come in and relax and sit. You don't know, maybe it's not a free haircut or a free headshot, but you don't know what happened in their day yesterday. And you don't know how just having that place to sit and nurse their baby or talk to you about a potential, heartbreak, and this boudoir is their kind of, build back up or whatever the situation. Maybe they lost their job and they need a new headshot. You don't know what kind of situation they're in, and just giving them that space to just let go and be them is worth all the pennies in the world.
One thing I've learned is you got to keep a lot of Kleenex on hand in a photo studio. I've had too many people break down, and You have to put one of the things I've learned about having a studio, just being a photographer in general. Oh, my laptop is about to die, Lord. Is let me see how many seconds I got. Let me see. Hold on 1 second. 10%. Then I got a little chance to talk, and then I'll go get my charger. But one of the things I learned is it is emotionally taxing to be a photographer, period. You have to pour so much into people. I'm not a social worker, but I am a nurse. And so I get that part of the emotional part of it. And people have went through stuff. When I was doing a lot more of boudoir, I had found out that another client had came to me, and she was a therapist. She had sent 10 clients to me, unbeknownst to me, 10 clients. And they talked so much about their experience that she had to come herself. And I don't know which clients they were. Of course, she can't tell me, but I don't do this by myself. And we haven't talked about teams. I have an amazing team that sees the vision that I have and that have worked with me when I was not charging a dime. Because I started out with community. I didn't know how to be a photographer. I wanted to learn. So I gave all of my photos away for 2 years in a project that I call the Real Richmond Pictorial Documentary Series. It's super lengthy, but we would feature small businesses and people in the community that were making an impact and do a complete photo shoot of them and a written, like a documentary about them. Someone else was writing. That was way before ChatGPT because it's so easier now. But we would write all this stuff and do all these interviews with them and put it on social media. That is how people learned about who I was. I did it for 2 years. I did probably a total of 150 people. And that was my way of it wasn't even to get myself noticed. I was trying to practice and learn how to do photography, but I wanted to do something to give back to the community and highlight those people. So those same people that I highlighted have become a major key players in my business and have given back to me. And we'll talk more when we get to the part about how to fund a business, on how that project itself impacted me having a studio. So let me find my charger.
Well, I think, what's really, and thank you all for sharing that. It's like so inspiring to see what fellow artists are doing in the community. And I think like the really beautiful thing about that is the reciprocity. Like I believe that we're all in this for the heart and for the right reasons. And when you operate that way, it really does come back to you tenfold. It's like Jermaine, when you were talking about, like, seriously, I almost had tears in my eyes. I appreciate you so much for what you're doing. Like it means the world. That's so brilliant and incredible. And what I love about that too is like so many people have come to know you as a man and an artist through those acts that you're doing, through those acts of kindness, through those acts that are rooted in gratitude and love. And you couldn't pay for that type of marketing. Not that anything needs to be monetized, but that's the really beautiful thing is we can go out and do these incredible things in the world and help the people who need help. And in the process, it bolsters us in a way that we possibly couldn't be bolstered too. So it's this really beautiful, powerful feedback loop that I think a lot of people just don't give themselves to because they're afraid if they allocate energy here, then it's something that's not going to be here. And it's not. It all comes back. It really does.
I just want to touch base on it one more time. Johnny, you're 100% right because it doesn't need to be monetized at all. But I absolutely hate every time somebody talks about giving something away or giving back to the community any way, shape, or form. We have a whole sector of photographers that are like, oh, you're undermining, you're undercutting the business. This is a luxury business. You can't do that, blah, blah, blah. I could not be quicker to jump on top of somebody that's going to start in on that because in a sense, the more you give to your community, the more they're going to give back to you.
Yeah, I tell people, a lot of people see so many things and so many opportunities that I have, but I always tell people the biggest opportunities came to me in me giving my service 100% free. Like every time I showed up with no intention of getting money or anything out of it, God opened a major door. That's how I got into the Smithsonian. I showed up. I didn't ask for a penny. I just was like, as a photographer, I cannot let history be right here in my city and I don't document it. I was out there 12 days straight, sun up to sundown, didn't ask for a penny, didn't sell any of my images until like in the last year. I just started selling my images, but I just happened somebody came and tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Are you a real photographer?" I said, "Yes." I had no clue he was. I gave him my card. 2 weeks later, I get an email saying, hey, I visited your website. Back then, I like you. When I started, I didn't know anything. So what I did, I went to a place where I know that I could capture emotion. I can capture everything. I went into church.
Yep.
And I was the church photographer. Nobody knew I was. I would just show up at every church event for 3 or 4 years. That's how I ran into RJ. It's crazy. Me and a pastor a few years ago came to me and said, man, I remember you when you was in churches, like doing all of this stuff. Like, and I was like, yeah, like if I really think about it, in Baltimore, me and RJ started this church thing. Like we would be at every church concert, every church event. Again, we never got a penny out of it. We just randomly showed it. People didn't even know who he was. I would go to Facebook, post the pictures some kind of way, somebody see it, they tag somebody, and it just went around. But back to this, like the guy emailed me, and at the bottom of the email it said, I seen your stuff with the churches, but I don't see your stuff for the riots. And I said, oh, because I don't want anybody to see it. I'm holding it to myself. And at the bottom of the email, it said curator at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Now, this time that museum wasn't even open. They was actually building it out, and they was looking for work. And I said, this is a gimmick. Somebody scamming me. This can't be real. And I said, well, if you want these images, I can bring them. I'll come to DC. We can sit down and I can show them to you. He said, no, better yet, let me and the chief curator come to you. And they showed up at my house. I was living in an apartment in Owens Mills in 2016, and they showed up. And I put together a slideshow. I put it on my TV in my living room, played 3 minutes of it. They said, stop. They said, how can we get these photos? I said, well, if you got an external hard drive, I will give it to you right now, all 1,200 photos. They pulled out the external hard drive. I gave it to them. And from them, I had 10 to 15 meetings every other month with them. They narrowed it down to 19 pictures. I was a part of the Oprah Winfrey exhibition, More Than a Photo, when it first opened. From there, it was another one. And now if you go to the Smithsonian, it's the huge mural on the 5th floor. When you step in off the elevator, the reckoning, that you'll see the lady who does the portrait of Michelle Obama has been there for 5 years. So again, that came from me just going out, doing what I was passionate about and not worrying about money. A lot of times I know these new photographers, they're so hungry for money that they miss opportunity. The one thing that I've never done is chase money, and I've got more opportunities than I can manage. This studio I'm in right now is 2,700 square feet. And the crazy thing about this, I was trying to get this for months with my business partner that I was with. Me and my business partners went different ways. I happened to come here one more time, and there was a guy here, and normally nobody was never here. We can get in. I would always look through the glass doors. I was like a kid, like, oh my God, this place is just amazing. This is it. And the guy opened the door for me. I walked in and I gave my number, and I said, I heard y'all trying to sublease this place. And they said, we are. And I said, well, here's my number. Can you give it to the owner? The owner called me the next day, and the conversation was just so authentic. I thought he was one of my best friends for 20 years ago. And from then on, the next week, I signed a lease. He gave me one price. I said, I can't do that. Came back. I said, this is what I can do. He said, that's it. Let me know when you want the keys and everything. And then he said, this place was like an editing space. So the guy bought a business, and this space came with the business. So there was all these uprising desks, TVs, probably $30,000 worth of stuff in this space. And guess what he told me? He said, tell me what you don't want. I'll take everything else. Everything else in there, you can have it. I walked in the studio, turnkey. I didn't bring anything in here but one sofa and my bikes. So that comes from, again, being serving and not just chasing money. Opportunities are way bigger than money. Chase the passion. And the one thing that I always incorporate into everything I do is gotta some type of give back.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And once you do that, God will open doors far beyond your imagination. Like, I never thought in my life that I would have 2 locations. When I say I'm in prime location, like, look, if you look outside, you see I'm in the heart of, like, I'm 1 minute from Harbor East. Like,
Marketplace.
yes, I'm in prime location.
Yes.
Beautiful.
And this building is 4 floors, and I'm occupying the 1st and 2nd floor.
Awesome.
Jermaine, that's all God. It ain't me. It's just I'm a humble servant. And in turn, the Bible always say, if you take it the least of these, you'll never want for anything. And that's what I live by. I give to people. I love on people, and I don't look at anybody no separate way. Everybody is the same and equal to me.
Tell the people, bro.
And in turn, God blesses me beyond my imagination.
I'm telling you, and I'm a living witness to that as well. And I'm gonna piggyback what you said. Out of pain comes purpose. It can, and if you showcase your passion in there, it will lead you in the direction that you need to go. Because you remember when, I don't even remember, the guy got shot in Florida, in front of the store with it was something happened. Out of that, me being a photographer, I had just really said that I was becoming a photographer. Then again, I was out doing free photos. People were following my photos, but not really knowing who I was. I got on, that bothered me so much about that particular shoot that I got on live and just talked about having a shootout. I don't know why I wanted to call it a shootout when it was exactly what it was, but I called it a shootout. And just ask any photographers to come to the city just so we can love on our community with photography. Out of that post we had was on a Thursday in my car. On Sunday, I put together an entire event in 72 hours that rendered 3,000 people at a park with photographers. All the photographers, got as many photographers around the city, photographers who didn't even, just anybody who had a camera to capture community. And that's what we did. And that event turned into almost an annual event until COVID happened, where it was the next year, we did it again, 5,000. And that's how a lot of photographers got seen, is with those photos showing community and how the police were coming together and connecting with the community. So it doesn't, like he said, it doesn't have to be about selling photos and hard pressing people on trying to book your services. If you get out and show yourself actually serving, people will come to you because of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about a standpoint of, is anyone else mentoring yet?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that's drastically helped my business. I constantly give back, and I would say at this point I'm probably at 60 different mentees. Have not charged not one mentee. And the first studio that I was telling you all about, the communal space, is literally a studio where those photographers, the base minimum is like $50, but they can shoot as much as they want as long as the time is open. And the next level comes with is like 80, and that actually comes with equipment. Like they literally can use R6s, Rs, all types of different cameras that they utilize within that. And again, they can shoot as much as they want. And I only cover this, just that small part, just to cover something breaks, because I've had like 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds sometimes break things, but it's totally fine. Like there's 2 new interns that started with me, and they're fresh out of high school. One's a football player and one's going into nursing. The one that was a football player, he started his business back in May. Up until this point, that kid has already shot 20 different sessions. He just needed a space. And over the years, I found that just giving that back and having that give back portion to allow them to do that, that's been a really great thing. And so far as like how I've established, so far as my wedding company, it's been the same as that thing. It's giving those opportunities to come shadow and learn, shoot. And that mentoring portion has paid dividends, just wanting to give back. So I can echo that. When you leave with that, the community blesses you back. And the third studio that I'm operating in is a fellow partnership with the corporate company that wants to grant artists. They gave me a number. It's the studio itself is going to be around like 3,000 square foot, and I'm planning on doing silos where, I don't know if you all have seen the design studios where you have different types of backgrounds within the studio. That's what I'm planning on doing in that studio space. If I was to tell you all what I'm going to be paying for it, a lot of people be mad. It's going to be really
Take
low.
over as the king, please.
Really low. It's really low. But again, it's going, and the reason they wanted to do that, because they know I've given back to so many photographers within my city and my state. So they want to be a part of that. And at first, when they gave me a number, it's like I was like, yo, I can't pay that. I'm not even paying that within both my studios. So that's just not gonna work. She immediately emailed me back, was like, hey, no, I just want to do business with you. I thought this was a low number. What can you do? I sent her a number back. She said, oh, yeah, I'll do that. That's totally fine. I just want to be a part of you. And just that give back portion, if you leave with love, you're going to see people within the community, because a lot of people don't think about social capital. That is worth more than any type of dollar. That social capital itself will pay dividends within your business.
Well, and I think a lot of photographers, um, there's this sense of competition over community, right? Of, you know, gatekeeping and, you know, trying to just hold on to as much as they can when really they don't see the value, like you said, in giving back to that community, and they'll fold back on you again and give right back to you. Um, I always think about it in the sense of, where would my career be if somebody hadn't helped me? You know, if somebody hadn't shared knowledge with me or given me just a moment of their time before I knew much of anything. So I always just try to lead that way and giving back, because I wouldn't be much if I didn't have the same in return.
Well, a large contingent of the industry is purely capitalistically based, and it's like we all have to make money, we have to pay our bills, we have to sustain ourselves and our families, but so much of the industry is make 10K, do this, do that. There's always an exit point, there's always an out point. And in the process of that, I think so many artists lose track of themselves as artists, because they become marketers, they become salespeople, they become consultants, they become designers. They're no longer artists. And I'll echo the sentiments all of you have shared here. Like, I get questions a lot about the brands that I work with, and I'm lucky to work with some really great brands who are doing some really great things in the industry. And that's empowered me to do a lot of things and give back to the community in different ways. And it comes back to exactly the same thing. They heard my name, they kept hearing my name, and they just heard good things. They're like, this is a person who always gives back. This is a person who shows up first and leaves last. This is a person who answers every question. This is a person, when they're at a conference and they're dead on their feet from walking 40,000 steps, if someone says Johnny, he sits down with them and says, what's going on? What do you need? How can I love on you? How can I help you? So it's like, when that's your main prerogative, you just have to get out of that like scarcity mindset. When you give of yourself that way, you get back in every possible way. And it's a scary thing to do, because you're like, well, if I'm not allocating my energy to making money, what am I going to do tomorrow? But when you stop doing that for a moment and give yourself a second to see what the end result will be, it's an incredibly powerful, beautiful, empowering thing that just drives you further forward down that path. It's what it's all about.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, like when people kind of, like literally my neighbor is also a photographer, and people was like, oh, why are you so much community over competition? I was like, look, the reality of it is, I have a number of how many sessions I want to do in a year, right? I like vacations. Those of you that know me,
Hey, man. Right.
Going tomorrow.
right? So, the reality is, like, that number is so much lower than your addressable market, right?
Mhm.
And if you can't meet that number, then it's really a you problem of you not marketing yourself, right? It's not because the next person next to you is stealing your client. The next person next to you is marketing better than you, but yet there's still like so my number is like in the 90s, right? That's all I really care to do, right? A couple sessions a month, and then because that gives me room to travel, but also gives me room for conferences. It gives me room to do workshops. I'd rather be on the road than be in my studio. As much as I love my studio, it's my sanctuary. But at the end of the day, like, put me on a plane, get me out to, like, I'll be out in Colorado Springs in September. So between Johnny and Russell, I'll be seeing them as well, making time to kind of make sure I catch up with them. But like, it's those things where that's my love, right? I love traveling. I love seeing other places. I love, invading other people's studio space and teaching them how I use it, right? Like Johnny was in mine. And like, that's the other thing is, when you have studio space, invite other creatives to be in it, because like, so I've never shot in my gallery, right? Mainly because I do a lot of it, but like, I've never shot in my gallery. Johnny took down all of my prints and used my gallery because there is beautiful light coming in from that direction.
Spectacular.
He's like, I am not letting this light go. And like,
Watching Johnny disassemble your entire studio and not even think twice about it was such a glorious
Kiati and Ernest said it's yours. Do what you want to do, and I was like, gloves off.
And you
let's
did
go.
not hesitate. You did not hesitate. No. We had a bullet point to talk about and like kind of curving back around to studio things because I know a lot of people are probably like, okay, let's talk about studio. And Kiati talking about bringing other creatives into your studio space. I think that's a great way to market your own studio is bringing other creatives into your studio space. Personally, for my studio, because we highly lean on the income from our members and from other renters to help pay those bills, and bringing other creatives into the space allows them to bring more people into my space. And then once they start seeing the space, then they want to rent it and they want to do their own things and stuff like that. So that's a really good way to market your own space, not necessarily you yourself. What, Margot?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know I was on mute. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
But yeah, I think that's really awesome because there's been so many times I've been in somebody else's space and been like, man, I just want to go to their space and shoot. They can come to my space. I think that's a really good way to market your own space.
Jason's busted into my space a couple of times. He hosted workshop. We've hosted workshops here. Having that space. I think other studio owners also, similar to the whole gatekeeping, they're afraid to have other people use their space because like, oh, well, their look is going to be semi my mind. I was like, in all reality, no, because the way they use light, the way they use equipment, the way they use like they could throw every piece of furniture out of your studio space and just use like
a canvas.
No one's ever done that before. But like, so it's those things where you just learn, right? And you get to like appreciate. Like I've been invited to other people's studios to kind of do that same thing, right? And it's a wonderful experience. It's like, at least I thought so. It's just great to kind of be in that space and also learn how they use their space and then kind of have them see how I use it, because then these light bulbs go off.
Right, Margot?
And I can say the same thing because I had the Peculiar group. Me and Dwayne hosted everybody down to Richmond. And it was unique to see. I did not shoot anything. I was the hostess making the cocktails. That is what my charge was, to make sure y'all felt at home at the house. And so they came in, like I told RJ, y'all came in like they just coming off the church bus because they came down in carloads. And it was hilarious to kind of see. I don't know how many people came down, but to see how people utilize the space. And we kind of did like because my studio is set up in bays kind of, but multiple different walls that you can use. We kind of had almost like a photo shoot, musical chairs where we play music and people move from scene to scene just to see how people would shoot with limited time. And it was just fun to kind of sit back and watch. And then as people posted the photos, to see how they actually utilize space. Because now I look at the space different, like, oh, let me shoot from this angle now. So I absolutely loved having people down, and I'm definitely going to do that again. But just to kind of talk a little bit about marketing, like I don't have a lot of photographers in my space. And I think that, even though I don't really market my space as a co-work, space where other photographers come, they inquire. And if they inquire, yes, I am going to do that more because we talked about that when, on our pre-Zoom call. But I'm real particular about my space because my space is not like other spaces because there's a lot of stuff in my studio that's expensive. And I'm talking furniture. And I've had people come into my studio before and they got lipstick on my sofa. That sofa's $3,000. They spill lipstick on the floor, which is hard to clean. So I'm real particular about who comes in. So that's why my space is not on a peer space and will never be on a peer space. But I am thinking about doing the memberships. However, I use my space differently because I have an event background. I host a lot of events in my studio. I never sell my photography. I never sell the studio rental. I just host events in it and people inquire. There's a QR code right outside my door. That's how people find out about my space because they're walking in the mall or they've been there at an event. I host a lot of mixers with the small business administration. There is a Black meetup group that comes into my studio. I have makeup classes. I have sound healing classes. I give away free snowballs every year because I used to make snowballs. And
What day
hey,
is
I'm a
that?
hustler now. And so I have all these mixes. So I have a snowball mixer every anniversary, which is in August. People from everywhere come because I have the snowballs there. They're free. All I want is you to come into the space.
I'll
So
be there.
I've had the Democratic National Caucus, not the caucus, but the Democratic National Party was there doing canvassing. So I've had so many people in that studio, and I only host small, intimate events for adults only. I do not have any kids there. It is not kid friendly in any way. I don't want you to bring your children. It's even in my contract about your kids. And so because they like to run rampant and be all over and walking on stuff, and I just don't want that. And it makes me nervous. And so only when you having family events, but that's how I kind of use my event that's different. And I host unique things. Like I have a headshot happy hour that I host every first Sunday where the photo shoots, where the headshots are discounted. They're only $50. I host that. I've been hosting that for probably 6 years, even before I had a studio. So it just kind of went with me wherever I go because I started doing that out of restaurants. But that's kind of a different way of hosting your events and collaborating with other partnerships. For Christmas, I do an open house where we show the decorations, and I have small vendors there that sell small plates for $5, and the community comes out. So, and they're just in my different stations. Now, I hate that event because it's a lot of cleanup, but it's worth it.
So with what you're being said, there was a question here that I think got posited earlier and then it just got reiterated. So the question basically is like, how much did the studio cost us to start? Like, what were our initial operating costs, including utilities and those types of things? What's the ROI? So what are we making off of our studios? And then, how much can they expect to make with effective marketing? And I mean, once again, I'm the worst person to answer this question as probably the least accomplished business person here. But I will say, I think what Connie said is actually a brilliant starting point for this because there are a million different ways to market. So even saying like, if I effectively market my studio, well, are you doing memberships? Are you using it as an event space? Are you educating out of the space? Are you doing all of those things? My ROI for me is education and clients. I rent the space like Connie on a limited basis. So I have 4 or 5 photographers in my area I trust. I support them. I do lighting design and styling for them when they rent the space. That actually is a boon for me. It's not listed on Peerspace. Similarly, this is like my baby. So like I put it on Peerspace once. Someone came in and I knew who they were, and I was like, leave this place now, and I couldn't do it. And I respect that as a model. But I think even in terms of effective marketing, like how are you monetizing the space? What's the market? What's the need? What's the saturation? So even in terms of talking about what you can make, there are too many variables for any of us to be able to address this because there's so many things, and even upfront costs. How are you equipping the studio? Is it going to be a minimal boho studio? Do you have a white wall and a single chair from IKEA? Or do you have 700 canvases and 27 lights like I do? Do you have those lights? Or are you purchasing them? So it's a very multi-variable kind of question relative to business model, operating costs, how you're monetizing it, and a million and one other things there. But
and before we
Johnny, I could say on the creative portion, if you all have theater friends, those people are amazing when it comes to building sets.
Truth.
Mhm.
That, and also florists during the week. So a lot of my sets, I don't, when you all see my sets, I don't design not anything. I hope for one day to have the time to design something really, really nice, and I just don't have the time like that. So I partner with florists, and sometimes it's really good money for them during the week where they're designing on the weekend. It's like, oh yeah, I'll come on a random Monday or random Wednesday to do something, and they already have the stuff. So I'm not having to pay for storage for that stuff. So finding unique other vendors that are already in that lane and just partner with them.
Stagers and interior designers are also good and event planners, because I don't like doing Christmas trees. So I partner with people who do Christmas trees, and they do my windows. And I didn't do Christmas trees last year because I was out of the country, but the year before that, I had 6 to 7 Christmas trees that were all interior designed by interior decorators and event planners, and that do specialize in Christmas trees because I don't like them.
Yep.
Let me just say this real quick because someone was talking about startup costs.
Yep. But before we do that, I just want to make we are at 9:14, so we're a little bit above time. I just want to make sure, like, I know from last week's call, we ran long and we didn't even skip a beat, right? So just to respect the panel's time, I just want to make sure you guys are okay to run longer. And then for the audience, you know, are you guys okay for us to run a little longer? We definitely, as questions come across, just pop them in the chat and we will do Q&A as well. So
This is so good. So please keep going.
Everyone's like, if you leave, we're canceling you. Like, it's that simple.
Sure, cancel.
I
We always
I
run
will
long. Yeah, we're on
say
peculiar standard time now.
yeah, I may have to get off around like 9:30. Only reason we have a team meeting at 10 because we got a huge conference with Black CEOs for the tomorrow.
okay. Yep, no worries. So like to that, you know, if you have to drop off, no worries. We appreciate you and thank you for your time. But we'll just kind of keep rolling. So because the reality of it is, if we get off this call, it's just going to turn into a peculiar Zoom call anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
Get the fog machines going.
Yeah.
So before Kiana, when we kind of went on a time check, I was talking about cost of startup because that's a big question I always get asked is how much does it cost to start up? That's like my number one question. But how I started up was a little bit different. Like I really was looking for a studio, but I kind of started saving. But again, they had quoted me $1.5 million on a place that I was not trying to buy. I was only trying to lease it. But again, it was way too big for me. It was 7,000 square feet and it had a spider web that was big as my house because it was abandoned warehouse and I was no way going to go in there. It required too much work. So I kind of started saving money. So I had about anywhere between $7,000 to $8,000. It was almost $10,000 that I had saved up to kind of see if that was a startup cost that I could afford to do. But then I had a creative idea of kind of seeing if the community would support me in this endeavor because they have followed me for years. I've been a photographer for 15 years now. As of July, I will be 15 years. But I have really leveraged a community support that I cannot even begin to explain, and a following with my community. And so I just kind of posted on social media that I was looking for a studio, and I think I found one in Stony Point. And I said, if I got the studio, would they support? And people was like, yeah, I would absolutely support. So I was gonna put the money where their mouth, put their mouth. What is it? Put your money where your mouth is. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, let me see. Let me put up. So I created my own campaign. I didn't want to do GoFundMe because that was kind of like taboo. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna create my own GoFundMe through Square. So I pre-sold sessions. So I started out with like, if you just want to give to support me, $25 to $75. If you want to do a headshot, $100. If you want to do a little mini session, $250, then a little something else was $500, then a full session was $1,000. So I put that out there and people started booking. They started pre-buying. I was like, okay, these people actually believe in me. I was really shocked. So I would shout them out. Every time somebody put one, I would shout them out. Where fear of missing out got to be leveraged. So I raised $30,000 in 30 days. And that's how I was able to fund my student. I never touched my $10,000. I was able to, and people started giving. They started giving furniture. People gave me a brand new tub. I got a brand new couch. They was like, hey, I got these pictures. You need them? I was like, let me look at them first. I had 2 U-Haul runs to go. Like this is one of those wicker chairs. This is in my house, but somebody gave me one. I was like, okay, well, let me go pick that up. So it was just, I had never cried so much in all the 30 days of my life that I cried from seeing how much support they gave me. And when I tell you that was the biggest grand opening, it was well over 200 people showed up to my grand opening that day. And we put a lot of work. People donated food, people donated balloons. I had the best balloon arrangement. Everything was donated. I didn't have to pay for anything from my grand opening. We opened it up the same day that Black Panther came out. We opened it up that weekend. It was a black weekend. I'm sorry, I'm black. I'm always be like, this Black weekend. And so, honey, we was out there. And that was how I opened up my studio.
I'm gonna talk about mine from two perspectives. When I was in college, So, and some people may not like what I'm about to say, but
No,
you had to
no,
start.
that's-
You had to start it some way. That student loan money.
I know,
Not gonna hold you. I don't even know legally if I'm supposed to say that, but
It's
that's
the max amount.
right. Listen, that's how we started. That's how I started. That's literally how I started just in photography, and that just kind of rolled. As I got older, so when I was finally getting my own spot, PayPal, I ran a lot of my stuff through PayPal, and PayPal has a PayPal Capital Loan.
So the
And
Square.
and Square. So my wife's a doula, so and she does newborn. So I was getting into more on the maternity side, and we wanted to offer kind of like a all-encompassing experience. So I was like, yo, I want to go ahead and get a gallery. And we were able, well, gallery of dresses. So with the PayPal Capital loan, we were able, I think it was around like $10,000. We applied for that. Great thing about it, it automatically like took out its portion, so I didn't have to worry about paying it back, and we paid it off pretty quickly. But we sent that 10,000, and we bought like 150 different maternity dresses to start that process of us building together.
Wow.
That's what we were able to do. So if you have your systems with Square or PayPal, that may be an option. And I know Kat, he was talking about buildings later on. I am thinking about a building later on in life. I don't know what stage that's going to be, but I'm looking at some of the SBA loans, and I'm talking to a mentor about that. So if you have really good financials, especially if you do bookkeeping very well, SBA is another great option for some small loans as well, just to get started.
We got some questions. Uh,
Oh, wait, there's a question.
when did you decide? When was the time to bring an associate photographer on for the?
So I've had this is my 18th year. I've had people that have been a part of my team for like 12 years, um, and some 15. I've had mentees that have started with me when they were 15 and they're full grown adults. And I have one, I have one mentee and staff member. She actually brought her son on. So I've just grown locally. I poured into my community, and all the talent that you all see with me, and that shoot the weddings and sometimes shoot the weddings. I'm not at every single wedding. It's because of the team that I have poured into, and they have poured into me, and all of them have their own businesses. And I do get this at times from other photographers, because they're like, oh well, aren't you concerned about them taking your clients? And a lot of my team members do shoot my clients. There was a client that booked the headshot, and I literally just sent Jay the information, like, hey, this client right here, just take it, go ahead and take it for your business. So it's a lot of that happens as well. Like, so goes back to the pouring within the community, and the community itself is going to take care of you. So
One thing I had
Wait.
tried. Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, I was just going to answer Malik's question. She said, how much y'all make in expenses, revenues, profits, hidden costs? When it comes to the studio, my situation's a little bit different. I think Jermaine maybe has a more similar situation to me so I'm one of 4 technical owners of my studio. Really, it's just me and one other guy that kind of run the game. We have another female that's on, and then a church that is technically part owner because they were a member of ours, but they needed some leeway on paying and things like that. So we brought him on as an owner. So what we do is our studio space is about our 2 studio spaces together, about 1,800 square feet. They're just divided by a hallway. And total for the space, including everything, internet, heat, it's an all-inclusive lease. So we have no hidden costs. We have nothing like that. We pay $46.58 a month. And how we cut this up is we have a studio fund, or we have a studio account, sorry. And every single owner pays $500 a month. Doesn't matter what we make, doesn't matter what we bring in. We all put in $500 a month. And then everything else that gets booked through all of our members, all of our individual renters, anybody that coming in the studio hits the studio account, and every 6 months we pay out. So what that kind of looks like is anywhere in a month, on our busy months, we can pull in 30 to 40,000. On a slow month, we could pull in 10 to 15. Don't usually dip under 10 for the most part. Our members get 12 hours for $350, and our individual renting starts at $89 an hour and goes up from there, just depending on what you're using or how much the speech you're using. So regardless of what's going on, because we have multiple owners, because we have so much in the situation going on, we always make sure that there's 6 months worth of the bills in the account at all times, which is why we don't pull out for 6 months. So we don't really own the studio so much as to make this huge profit off of it. We all keep our own individual clientele money. We don't give anything more than just our studio fee in. But it's just to make sure that we're protected, that if anything happens, or, like I said, he has a pandemic clause in his, it's kind of that safety net for us. So in my situation, every 6 months, I may make $10,000 to $15,000 off of my studio outside of my personal photography. That may be my payout. It just kind of depends. There's no hidden fees in mine or anything, just because other than the money that we might take out to replace furniture or lighting, because we supply a constant light in each studio. I was telling Connie to invest in Safeguard, the spray-on waterproof stuff, so she doesn't have a heart attack when people are touching her furniture. But other than that, I don't know if anybody else wants to share their profit to loss.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm probably different than everyone else here, simply because I don't really have a model specifically to monetize the studio. Like I said, the entire time, this is a space for me to create and to educate out of, and for the community and things like that. My goal has always been just to come out and break even with what I'm using the studio specifically for. So between the few rentals that I have each month, the community events I host, and those types of things, I'm looking to just cover my baseline cost. So when I am looking at what I'm bringing in from my clients, from my commercial work, from my creative work, from my education work, that's going directly to me, and it's not covering the overhead of the studio. So, I mean, with overall overhead, I mentioned this earlier, but I'm probably at around $2,000 for the cost of my studio space. And then I'm all just laughing. I don't know what's happening, everyone. I'm like, am I on mute? Am I on mute again and no one can hear me and everyone's just
They know why
gaslighting me?
they're laughing.
All right, cool.
I know why they're laughing.
I don't know why. I got chilly. No,
Look
it's fine.
at Keanu.
No, but so I mean, so for me, that's what it's all about. And then obviously for my own personal finances, I'm happy to discuss that, but it undulates a lot. Like I might have 5 clients in a workshop in 1 month, in which case it might be a $30,000 month or a $40,000 month. I might fall into a Nietzschean existential void and decide not to put myself out in the world, and have a month where no clients come in because I don't want to see any other people as much as I love them. So I kind of ebb and flow month to month. But overall, as far as the studio goes, I have it set up so the things that I'm actually monetizing from the studio are covering my baseline costs and overhead. So that's not a concern month to month for me.
So I
Yeah,
can talk about
I
mine.
live-
Oh, go ahead,
oh.
Smith.
Yeah, I mean, mine is relatively low. I kind of stated it earlier. Mine is relatively really low. I think I'm like $3 or $1 per square foot, something like that, is relatively low.
Kiati calculated it for you.
Yeah, Kiara, what was it?
Need a calculator.
Yeah, I know.
Need a calculator.
Open the spreadsheet, Kiati. Give us
Right.
the numbers.
Oh,
It was
but
7 something, wasn't it?
yeah,
He's
because
often
when I
calculating.
was like, wait, because I just never thought about the square footage, and I was like, it's almost like but like it's relatively low. And also, I think this is something to think about. It's very safe to state. Like, I'm in South Carolina. Like, cost of living here, like my mortgage is $700. So like
Your mortgage, like your house mortgage?
yes.
Well, I think- and then-
Yeah. Sorry,
You
I was
couldn't afford a cardboard box and an underpass for $600 a month in Denver.
wow.
Yes.
Everyone's moving
No,
to South Carolina now.
So
We're
yeah,
gonna
it's
drive
just,
the cost up.
don't do it. But yeah, that my stuff is relatively low because of where I stay.
So mine's a little bit different because again, I like Johnny, I don't have a separate thing for my studio. But again, I'm the only one really in there. I think I rented my studio maybe 2 times last year. So I use Square for calculating my finances, and it goes into what's the thing, QuickBooks. But last year, and I'm gonna be real transparent with mine because I'm very proud of where I've come from what I made. Like I used to charge like $99 and $200 some dollars for a photo shoot. And one of the things I will say is you have to price your services for what you want to make and kind of figure out what you want to make at the beginning of the year so that you can calculate how many shoots you need to do per week and how much you need to charge for these shoots. And I work as a full-time photographer, but I'm also a nurse and I keep my money separate. So I, again, use Square for most of it. And last year, I wanted to make 6 figures. I wanted to make sure that I made 6 figures no matter what. And so I'm looking at my Square from last year, 2023. I made $143,000 and 143. That's what it says. 143.31. And then last year I made 139,483.59. That was how much I made. So roughly about $140,000. But I have a lot of expenses too. The studio is expense. I have alcohol there. I quarterly I buy alcohol, and I buy almost $500 worth of alcohol quarterly. I give out gifts. We feed people. We sometimes have merch. So there's a lot of expense. Plus, I pay for the makeup. So I have makeup artists that I have 5 makeup artists. So depending on who's working that day, I pay my makeup artist. That's $85 per person. I have a team. I pay them $25 an hour to be there with me when I'm having a photo shoot. So there's a lot of expenses that go in there. So that doesn't mean I took home $140,000. That just means that this is what I made with the studio. Plus I have a second account. The second account goes for, I do trips, but they include photos in them too. So I'm doing a Bali trip. That's a whole separate account. That account has about $40,000 in it from the trips that have been made. So that's how I make my money, is through trips and planning experiences for my clients. It's not just through photo shoots.
So how much would you anticipate that you are netting after your expenses?
Probably about, I would say maybe $60,000. But again, I also work as still part-time not even part-time, as needed as a nurse. So, and I kind of average how much I need to work as a nurse. I use my money for nursing for trips because like Kiara said, I like to travel. I love to travel. So I don't work every day, and I only work maybe 1 or 2 days a week. So I don't want to work every day. I don't want to feel like I'm going to a job every day. And so that's why I have to charge what I charge for my shoots. My shoots start at $799 to $1,799. Some of them can go up to $3,000, depending on the client, so that I don't have to feel like I'm working 9 to 5 every day and feel like I'm stressed.
And I found there's other ways to cut costs as well. We have members that come in and maybe $350 isn't a great price point for them because they're starting out or whatever. We have a girl who comes in, she cleans the studio. We have people that offer different things. Like we have a girl who's a makeup artist and a photographer. And so she'll offer her services, kind of cut her costs in the studio for different people. So you can get creative on how to also cut your own costs with, offsetting that net loss of.
Because I barter too. I also.
100%. I don't pay for this hair, girl.
Yeah, I don't never pay for my makeup. And even some of the furniture that I have in there was an interior designer going out of business. She needed branded shoot. So she let me come in and get anything I wanted to leverage up to getting a $1,799. She wanted to get that shoot. And so I got that much furniture.
The makeup space was a hit for us when our clients didn't have to worry about makeup and everything was in one house. And literally that makeup artist, she probably pays one of the lowest when it comes to just rent component, but she offers so much to my business because of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that one thing. And if I could ever find a hairstylist, oh, we will be in the game.
Hey, Kiati's a good hairstylist.
I just had the capacity to have like a sink and set up. I would have my own hairstylist because I like my clients to not, because they'll come with this bootleg somebody who does makeup and not a makeup artist. And I
Yep.
said that's two different
Yep.
things.
The
Yeah.
worst.
So
Yep.
Well, I will say too, is a side note to what everyone else is saying. Once again, it's just to offer an alternative perspective. Depending on where you're starting, depending on the type of work you have, where you're at in your creative journey, sometimes these companies will get behind you to help supply gear for your studio, depending on what your model is and how you want to move forward with that. A lot of the big companies right now are looking for good faith marketing where they can get behind people who are doing positive things in the community, trying to get away from the corporate capitalistic evil image, as they should. So, with that being said, like when Jermaine was talking about that earlier, it's like, I don't know how he equipped the studio. I heard Westcott, Kiati, Westcott. But I know like Westcott's doing some really great things. But, for that, let's say Jermaine's thing, like when he was doing a build out, like if I was in Jermaine's shoes, and I'm not sure what he did, I wish he was still here to talk about that, but I would have went to Westcott. Jermaine, are you still here?
I'm still here.
Okay, so like I don't know how you went about outfitting, the actual build out for that mobile studio, but that's something where a brand would love to get behind it. Like what Connie's talking about, everything that she's done in the community. If part of what you're going to be using the studio for is for good, is for giving back, contact these communities, put together a plan, outline exactly with specificity what you're going to do, and say, listen, this is how having Westcott lighting in my studio is going to light the path forward for me and my local community. Be on the nose about it, be relentless, and sell yourself in that way. Because the difference between having to invest in, let's say, 6 strobes that are 600 watts and 6 C-stands and 6 boom arms, or a company supporting you on that is a massive upfront cost that you can get allayed. And they'll either lend you the gear, or in most cases, they're going to gift it out to you. And then you also build a brand relationship at the same time. And that my studio, I think I've paid for 1 light and 1 backdrop in this entire studio. Everything else has been brand relationship for me.
I appreciate that information because I'm about to start. When we talked about at the the pre-Zoom last week,
Yeah.
A restorative justice photography program in September, and I will need a ton of equipment. But everybody who come through this program is 100%. Again, it's about impact and empowering the young people in the community. So I'll definitely put something together and reach out to Westcott because that's what's in my studio. It just works for me, and that's what's in my mobile unit. But again, I didn't even think of it from that perspective because again, companies now want to get behind people who actually make an impact and doing positive things in the community.
Which is a nice shift. And anything I could do, let's stay in contact, anything that I could do to support and get your name to people. And I think that's the beautiful thing. It's like we lift each other up in this too. So, the big bit when like Kelly was talking about gatekeeping, so many people are like, oh, I'm afraid if I give this person this thing, it's an opportunity. You look great. Like that's my biggest thing that I've ever done for companies is send other people their way. And they're like, these people have been gold for us and we've been gold for them. So like put the ego aside, put the competition aside, y'all just support and love one another. It's good for everyone and everything, the whole ecosystem of humanity.
Well, I want y'all to help me because I am not even a gearhead at all. Like I have very, very basic stuff. I shoot with an 85 millimeter lens. I don't even know what brand it is. Not even a Sony, but I've been had it so many years, and a 50 millimeter. That's pretty much all I shoot with. And I still have the 200, the 7200 Canon, but I don't use it. So I'm not a gear person, but I want to be able to, I feel like I do what I need to, I use what I have to do what I need to do with it. But one of the things I do want, who has those panel things that they stand up by themselves?
Oh,
I want that so bad.
There's one right behind him.
Like, are they really good? Because
they're amazing. Real quick before we get on,
They are the bomb.
I want that.
Before we get onto that, somebody had asked, how do you reach out to these? I think it was Miles asked, how do you reach out to these companies? How do you get to them? And I had commented on his thing and said, word of mouth is everything. But also tag. When you post on social media, tag every company humanly possible that you are using. Tag your local communities that you use, a park, whatever. Because that shows up on their social media, that shows up on everybody else that's following them social media. Tag everybody, tag Westcott, tag, the more they see your name pop up, the more they see that you're utilizing their stuff, the more they're likely to reach out to you.
And I'll piggyback on that real quick too. You know, I think this kind of goes in line with what's been said about not pursuing the money, but just doing it for the right reasons. Before I started working with Nan Light, I had 1 or 2 of their lights, and I just started submitting stuff consistently to them. Like every week, I was showing them the work I was creating with the lights, and I was like, you know, in all the photography circles, if you're like, oh, I let a company use my work without getting paid, people are like, you never do that. You're proselytizing or whatever it is. Some you know person telling you how to live your life bullshit. But ultimately, I would do it. I would send it to Nan Light, and I'm like, hey, if you want to use this for any marketing purposes, please use it. Look at this. And like all of a sudden, the people started noticing. They're like, oh my goodness, the work you're creating, and we're in love with it. And I wasn't pushing specifically, but I was like, hey, if there's an opportunity for us to collaborate, if there's new products that are coming out, if there's some way for us to combine forces. And now I'm literally one of the top global ambassadors for Nan Light. And I've sold more gear for Nan Light than literally anyone else. And I've done it with never actually selling a thing, because I'm just like, hey, if you love it, get it. Come into my studio, try it, buy it. Like there's never been pressure from that, but it's just relentlessness. Like do it respectfully, but be relentless. Like literally these companies hear from people all the time. So what Kelly's saying is perfect. Tag them, and every week follow up, get to know their name. And I'm like, hey, Janet, it's Johnny again. Here's some new work. How's your kid doing? Did he make it into Stanford? That's super duper. You know, and keep doing that, and then speak about why it's important and bring them something unique. You know, say like, hey, listen, I would love to work with you because I love your products. And this is something I'm working on that I think could be of benefit to the community and your company. And here's an interesting angle that I haven't seen anyone else do. So bring value yourself at the same time, but just consistency, because most people try it once and they hear a no, or they don't get a response. And they're like, Sony ghosted me. And then they're blasting Sony. And then 2 months later, they're like, why isn't Sony contacting me? I'm like, well, you said all the executives could burn in hell. And that probably wasn't the best way to engage with them. But it's just do the work, make great work, make sure they're seeing your work, and make sure you know what's going on with them. And at some point, I think for me, honestly, all of my ambassadorships have come from them just being tired of me. At some point, they're like, this dude who shows up like this, who's wearing fur coats, who won't shut up. Send him some gear and give him a title so he will leave us alone. And I love it. I got there. So that's all that matters.
Here's what I tell people all the time. They are just people.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
all just people. You know, I know in the wedding world, Esteban Gil's name is really big. And I don't know how many times I've heard people, oh, I can't talk to Esteban. He's a celebrity. No, he's not. He's just a human. Oh, I can't talk to Johnny. Johnny's so cool. No, Johnny's just a human.
I'm not that cool either, honestly.
It's just, these people are just people. Just say hi to them, walk up to a conference, tag them in something, know their name. You know, it's you know, once you say hi, and then they'll start seeing you over and over again, and you'll just
also
end up with friends.
It also circles back to this idea of exactly what like Kelly and Kiati were saying, so many other people were saying about leases, like just ask for it. You know, that's the reality. I just hooked up a friend of mine with Westcott for a workshop that we're going to be doing, and he sent out this list. And Rick, if you're out there, I love you so much. And Rick is one of the most humble, beautiful, wonderful artists that I know. And he's such a good man. And he sent out the list, but he's like so humble that he just didn't ask for everything he wanted. And then I followed up, and they're like, oh, we would give him anything. You know, so often I think we're like, oh, well, I'm just an artist and they're this big company. Fuck yeah, they're this big company, which is why they can afford to give you a light. You're out there making magic, lifting people up, changing lives, changing your community, being a beacon in the fucking darkness. They can send you a light that they paid $80 to produce overseas while you give them $1,000 worth of your IP. As artists, we need to demand more from these companies and expect more and stand up for ourselves. It's almost like unionizing as artists. So don't ever feel like, oh, I owe them something because they sent me a panel. It's like that panel was probably in demo stock that was in the back corner that a dog peed on, so they can't bring it to a conference, and they sent it to you. So just let go of the fear, let go of the ego, and just ask. The worst thing they're going to say is, hey, no. And then ask again.
Ask for one of those panels.
Do it. Straight up. Just ask. Be like, hey, this is who I... Literally tell, but like your story is so compelling. Tell that story. Be like, this is what my studio about. This is how I lift up women in the community. This is how I made my studio with the support of the community. This is what I'm going to do with these tools and how I'm going to integrate it into this community-based space. Make it so they can't say no. Make it so
Aileen, the owner of Baby Dream Backdrops, her name is Aileen. She is one of the sweetest human beings
wonderful.
on the face.
Oh, I want that backdrop.
Oh my gosh, she is such a sweetheart.
Yeah. And literally put like, and it's I don't want to say extort or exploit people, because I would never do that or say I would do that. But you know, make it so compelling that they can't say no. Tell them your story. Speak to what you're doing, where if they they say no, they're going to have to go to confession. If they say no, they're going to have to feel real bad about themselves with who they are as human beings, because you're doing great things. Like, just ask for that support because you deserve it. Know that and operate accordingly.
And I think I like doing, and this is just ideal. I like doing things like I like a passion project.
Yeah.
Which most things kind of fall into a passion project. But there's one thing that I'm going to do. It's not really going to be a passion project, but it's going to be something that's still low cost. Like lately, and I don't know, this has been happening in other studios, but lately, probably since I've been in my studio, I've had a lot of clients that are older that have come into my studio to get their funeral program photo. And I've probably done 7 of them at this point. And so I'm going to be marketing it starting in July. I already have a brand ambassador for it. It's a lady who came in. She said, "Hey, I've been following your work for a while. I love how you make women feel. I want you to do my funeral program or end of life photo." And not that she is about to die now, but she wants to get a photo so that she looks like herself. And she's already planning her living funeral. And I've been talking a lot about death and dying because I've had a lot of that happening around me that I've started to talk about it. So people are seeing it and becoming comfortable with me having such a good relationship with death and dying. And so I'm even hosting funeral homes and ministers, cremation society, and end of the life planners in my studio for an event that will probably be at the end of July, if not the 1st of August, to talk about that. And one of the things I'm going to be doing is what I'm calling YOLO sessions. You only live once sessions. And so I've had people that have just heard about me about to start this already book one. I did one just 2 days ago. And I was like, "How'd you hear about this?" "Well, I heard you say it on social media just real briefly. And I know you ain't putting nothing out there about it, but this is what I want to do." And I was like, "Well, listen here. Let me see what the demand is here." So I'm going to be doing those sessions, and because I work in long-term care and I know a lot of people in hospice, I'm going to be offering that service to go in and do photos for people to have an end of life once they get a terminal diagnosis, or if they feel like, "Hey, I'm 70, I'm 80, I ain't got much more time. Let me go ahead and do my YOLO session now." So that is one of the passion projects that I'm about to start marketing starting in July. After I get off my cruise, I'm going to give myself time to think about how I want to market this. That's one of the sessions I'm going to do, is that.
Connie, that's
incredible.
great.
Funeral
That's
program
incredible.
now,
That's so
huh?
powerful.
Say what?
So I did